inflated. So it wasn't like Florida was right in line with everybody else. We had an additional 20% over everybody else.
Right.
So, I mean, all it did was correct that little piece. And I mean, our weather here didn't really help much, but
right.
I don't have any wood here.
I know, right?
We're almost. Welcome. I'm so excited for today's show. I'm Chris with Mortgage Matters with the Galli Lama and my special guest, Jennifer. If you guys watched the podcast a couple weeks ago, we had Dawn on the show, which is Jennifer is Dawn's business partner. So super excited for that. As you guys know, what we like to bring to you is guests from our marketplace and just hear their stories, what they're doing to make an impact and a difference here in our community in Southwest, beautiful, heavenly Florida. And a little bit about what brought you here and then what makes you successful at what you're doing right now. And in your case, it's real estate. So guys, you guys are in for a great treat. I'm super excited to have you on, Jennifer. Thank you for joining me. And,
Thank you.
We're going to talk, I'm going to just kind of tease you guys with a couple things that we're going to really focus on today. So we're going to focus on your story, on one, what brought you here quickly, but the main point is the entrepreneurial spirit that you have from how you received it from your parents. Like you really were fortunate, it sounds like, in a lot of cases, that, you know, from restaurant business to being in the real estate business to also buying your first home at 19. So if you guys stay tuned, you're in for a great show, and we're going to get started right now, Jen. And I'm going to jump right into it and maybe start in those early roots of what it was like growing up with a family of entrepreneurs. And not only that, your father came here from Iran at a young age too. So, you know, I know these stories. I don't know, I might have shared it with you. My family came here from Italy, just like grassroots with nothing, and, you know, really gave you that desire. And they had a desire for you, not that my Nona was anything like less of anything, but he owned a bread route and he wanted us to be more than that, even though that was great, you know, as it was. So I'm so excited to hear your story and your journey. And as we all know, you're very successful now in this market at a very fast, rapid pace. So let's get into it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a true honor. When I think back on my childhood, I really get emotional because I'm so lucky to have the parents that I had. I told you I was going to make me cry, but don't worry, I'll get over it quick. Because when I think back on my childhood, we didn't really have a lot, but I never felt like we were lacking anything, and it's because my parents loved us so much. And when I think back about everything that we have been through, we got through it together as a family. And I would never trade my childhood for anything. I know I hear stories of people that grew up a little bit maybe more rich or more privileged, but the skills and the knowledge and the ethics and the morals I have today is because of my parents. And so that's really, you know, where all of my passion to help people comes from. And so, you know, we were very lower middle class growing up. My mother was a cosmetologist. My father worked in the restaurant industry. He's a brilliant man who came here on a student visa at the age of 18 from Iran. And he was so brilliant, he actually skipped 4th to 7th grade. And when he came here, he got his electrical engineering degree. And once he got out of school, no one would hire him because of the discrimination going on in this country over the Iranian hostage crisis. So he had to make a living for his family, so he got into the restaurant business because that's what pretty much all the Iranians had to do. They were, you know, kind of thrown into these more unskilled jobs, and they quickly learned that they were smarter than the owners. So a lot of the Persians in Louisville, Kentucky opened up their own restaurants, and my parents were one of them. But actually, before they opened the restaurant, my mom actually had a hair salon because, again, she was a cosmetologist. So at the age of 9, I was working the front desk, helping answering the phones. They were probably like, why is this little girl answering the phone? And actually, we put a vending machine in that salon, and me and my two brothers, us 3 kids owned it. And
what were you selling in it?
We were just selling snacks in the salon. We quickly found out most of the dollars in there were the dollars my dad gave gave us to buy candy. But I love that they gave us that opportunity to kind of run a business and see the ins and outs of running a business. And while the salon was only open for 3 years, the reason why it closed was because that's when my parents made the decision to finally open a restaurant.
Okay.
And, you know, thinking back now, I remember being a kid and being like, oh, nobody else has to work like this. So I had a little bit of resentment that I was working. However, I loved being able to go in there, learn skills, earn some cash to buy things that my parents weren't able to afford. So I think that was another reason why I never really felt poor, because I was taught at a very young age, like, you got to earn what you want. And so that was instilled in me. So a lot of people say, oh, you're one of the hardest workers I know. And yeah, I am, because of my parents. They really instilled it in me in a great way growing up.
What kind of food, what was the style of food that you guys had in your restaurant?
So it was called Manhattan Grill. It was open in Louisville, Kentucky. We were actually open for 25 years.
Wow, okay.
And it was a breakfast and lunch, Monday through Friday. We served breakfast. We served Italian food, hot and cold sandwiches, burgers, a little bit of everything. We served the downtown Louisville corporate crowd, the lawyers, the judges, big companies we would do box lunches for, things like that.
That's cool. So, and then you started, so if you were 9 at there, so you were about 12?
So I was about 12 when they opened the restaurant. And I will say, other than just learning, obviously, how a business works, that is where I really learned empathy, and that is where I learned not to judge people for their background. I mean, I kind of already knew that because I saw my dad being judged for things that he couldn't control. But we actually worked alongside a bunch of employees that were in drug and alcohol addiction programs. And I quickly saw how much these people had to pick up their life from the bottom, and they had to make something of themselves to get their kids back from the state, to get their homes back from, you know, being homeless. And watching these people pull themselves from the bottom, working, you know, a minimum wage or barely above job, and seeing what they could do with just the little they had just really inspired me. And a lot of them came back to me and say, oh, you inspired me. But I tell them, I'm like, no, you inspired me. Like, I had loving parents growing up, and I quickly learned that that was a privilege. Not everybody had parents in their corner to watch out for them like they did.
And to have that unit, the family unit, where you guys had the ability to work together as well. I mean, that's special. I mean, probably wasn't special at the time. Like, you know what I mean?
That segues into my mom going into real estate, but yes.
And then you landing ultimately in it. I'm sure there were days like, I'm never doing either one of these things ever.
Yeah, and actually we will probably touch on my statement saying I would never go into real estate full time, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, it was definitely, I definitely grew up at that restaurant. I definitely learned everything about myself and what I did and didn't want to be at that restaurant. And while there was a couple years toward the end, I actually had a little bit of resentment over the restaurant because I felt like it was an anchor keeping me in Kentucky when I had the desire to move away. I never lost sight of the fact that it turned me into the person I am today.
Yeah, and you know, the restaurant business, I worked in a restaurant business in high school, like most of us do, right? I was busing and did room service at a hotel and all that stuff, but you really learn some great people skills at the same time. So you're reading people all the time, right? And not that many people have that opportunity. I mean, you could work at McDonald's, but you're not really reading people at the same way you are at a restaurant, because I mean, to have a restaurant that stays open for 25 years, you're doing something right. I don't know what the lifespan is, but I'm assuming that's probably 5 years or less for 80% of restaurants.
Oh yeah, easily.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
right?
It is crazy. Most restaurants fail, I want to say like 90% in the first 2 years. And if you make it past 5, you have a good chance, but a lot of people don't.
They don't.
And so I give my mom all the credit for pushing my dad to do it. My mom was the pusher, and my dad was the consistent guy that made everything run smoothly and happen.
He was a machine. He was the one that's like, okay, you give me my marching orders, and I'm going to knock out each one of them. Just boom, 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 all the way down the line. So It sounds like your mom was an entrepreneur all the time, the whole time. I mean, she opened up her own salon, right?
Yes, along with my dad, with his help.
Okay.
She was obviously the lead cosmetologist, and my dad did all the back end work as far as taxes and payroll and things like that. While he also worked as a manager in the hospitality industry, bringing home that salary to make sure we had a roof over our head. But yeah, she definitely is the idea person. She's the one that lets everybody know that they can do whatever they want. You just have to have confidence in yourself to go for it. She's definitely the one that pushed me to get into real estate, even if I went fighting and saying no, I don't want to do that, because she knew that it was something that I could excel in. And then my dad is the consistent one that keeps the operation going. And then I was essentially his right-hand woman, especially there towards the end, because of my parents quickly found out they should not work together, and that is when my mom transitioned into real estate.
When was that? So the restaurant opens when you're 12. How many years was it that she transitioned? It was actually quite some
time. So we opened the restaurant in 1997, and my mother went into real estate around 2011.
Okay, all right.
So they lasted there for a little bit.
So now you're like in your 20s,
correct?
Right? And you're still probably running the restaurant. At that point in your 20s, you were probably a big role in the restaurant.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, I'll tell you about my early 20s. I was working at a TV news station because I had my degree in journalism, and I actually worked the morning show. Shout out to WDRB in Louisville, Kentucky. I would work midnight to 8 because I would produce the morning show, and then as soon as the morning show ended, I would go help get my family through lunch rush, breakfast, things like that. And then around 1 o'clock, when things would start dying down, my mother would come in with her real estate business, and I would help her with the computer work, because my mom has the gift of the gab. My mom and Dawn, I see a lot of parallels, and I'm the one that comes in and helps keep them organized in line, cross the T's, dot the I's, things like that. And my mom struggled with the computer part and things like that, but she could go out and find business all day, every day, just talking to people. So I was essentially her transaction coordinator, her assistant.
You didn't even know it at the time.
I know, right? So I was essentially, and then sometimes I would even hold a different job at a restaurant, working carryout at night. That was insane. So even though my life is crazy right now and busy, compared to the workload I had in my early 20s before I had kids and all that,
you're built for it.
I'm built for it for sure. It's ingrained in me. It's work, and I kind of identify myself as a workaholic sometimes, so that is something I have learned in the last couple years, to kind of embrace the slow, which I'm sure we'll cover a little bit later about my routine and things like that. But that is something I've had to grasp, because I've had burned out a few times.
Yeah, it's I call it controlled chaos.
Yes,
right?
Controlled chaos is correct.
It's like I go a million miles. I have, similar to you, since I was 10 years old, I had a paper route of 150 customers.
Oh, wow.
And then those customers turned into, I used to mow their lawns, a bunch of them. Then I would rake their leaves. So I had my own little business going. So like you, my parents were dead broke poor. I mean, we used to go get our presents out of Catholic Charities. And I remember back then manifesting as I'm pedaling my bike, and I'm like, someday I'm never gonna be broke. I'm gonna have everything I want. I'm gonna have the big house. I'm gonna live in somewhere sunny. I used to say that 10, 11 years old. I see palm trees and a pool in my backyard, and not knowing what I was doing then.
Right.
Fast forward to today, I mean, I have all those things that I dreamt about as I was pedaling my bike in the sleet, the snow, the rain.
Absolutely,
and then I would get done that. I'd go to school. Then in the afternoon, I would go rake their leaves. I had to buy my first bike. So it's like, I get it. And now today, the challenge that I'm sure that you have, the same as me, is that work-life balance.
Yes.
The lines bleed together very quickly because my wife works with me, and it turns into now business is 24/7 in a way, and it's how do you put the brakes on it? You love what you do. I love what I do.
Right.
I love it. So it's not like you. It's not that I feel like I'm working,
Absolutely.
but the other people around me may not feel that way. So
That's
it's
very true.
It's okay,
yes.
it's all fine with me. I'll keep going, right?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily even know if I'll burn out, because I used to go see somebody just to kind of verbally throw up on every week, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it to my family and my kids. And she's like, you're never going to be able to outdo this. You're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, I don't know anything else. Like you, 9 years old, you start working.
Yeah.
What is it? You're going to school, you're finishing school, you're working, and that's all you know. It's like, how do you reverse that?
Right. Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard. And sometimes I find myself relaxing on the couch, and I'm actually doing Canva templates for our just solds or our under contracts. And my husband's like, that's relaxing. And I'm like, actually, yes, I love graphic design.
I'm not running, I'm not driving. It's like, this is like awesome.
But yeah, so we're very fortunate to have careers where we feel that passion, where it doesn't feel like work, but we do have to do a better job of finding that time, balancing it out.
And it's funny because you say that, it's like, you know, we have this flexibility, we think.
Right. Yes.
Do we?
Well, yeah. You know, there's sometimes, you know, I go back and forth about it. I say real estate allows me a lot of flexibility, but there's a lot of days where I'm like, no, it doesn't. But when I'm sitting there and my daughter's getting her braces on and I'm the one sitting there and I didn't have to at the dental office while she's getting that done, I look up and I say, thank you, God, because this is what I prayed for. I prayed for a good career that I can still be there for my family.
Correct. Because you, in a regular job, right? I mean, we think about, I know everybody like, oh, what if I had this other job, the guaranteed pay and all this blah, blah, blah. But in situations like this, where your daughter has a dentist appointment, right? You got to go to somebody, ask permission to leave.
Right.
Like, I'm not wired to ask that permission. Like, and that's the reality of it. It's like, okay, can I have next week off? I need Tuesday, this and that. Like, never in a million years is that happening.
Right. And, you know, with Dawn and me, it's, you know, hey, I'm going to be gone this weekend, so you're covering, and vice versa. So we make sure that we have the coverage that we need, but we're never asking permission.
So let's dive a little deeper in all the things that you learned from the restaurant business, right? But let's dive a little bit deep on that beginning pieces of what we're talking about here today, your real estate business, a business that you never thought you would get back into, right?
Right.
And you start at a young age. What were some of the things that you learned that you carry today? Because, I mean, fast track to today, 24 months, right? You've been here about 24 months?
Well, I've been in Florida for 3 years, and I've been licensed for 2.5. 2.5
years. So the 2.5 years that you've been here, you've literally, I mean, I would say you're in the top probably 10% at least, if not better, than 9,000, you hear that, guys? 9,000 agents in Sarasota, Manatee County. That's a lot. You're competing with a lot of different people.
Right.
So to be in that top, I would probably say you're probably closer to the 5%, but let's just say 10 in the top 10 to 5. You may even know it. And
well,
if you do, so you can brag. It's okay.
I know where I'm at within my brokerage of 300, and right now I want to say we're number 6 or number 7 out of 300.
So there you go. Yeah. Scale that out. So you're like in the top 2% right there. So you're probably in the top 5%, you know, out of everybody here. So you learned some things along the way before you got to here, because you know you learned some stuff watching your mom. Tell me some of those things and the journeys that you really took, that you grabbed, some of those nuggets that you grabbed back then that you're utilizing today that best serves the people that you work with, including your business partner.
The hospitality business definitely helps me a ton. Being client focused, putting my customers first. I mean, that's number one. And most of the people that work with us, they feel it. They know that they can call on us anytime, any day. And while we may not be able to answer right at that second, we're at least acknowledging their message and saying, hey, we'll get back to you when we can. And just that little bit right there helps so much, because most of the complaints I hear from people about agents is their communication was poor, or they didn't give me the full picture and things like that. And we do everything we can to make sure that we put our clients first. And, you know, sometimes we even put our commission up, you know, to help people.
Correct.
You know, if we need to give up a little bit of our commission to make a deal happen for somebody that really needs it, we will absolutely do it without even hesitating. Or if we find out a seller is only going to give us 2.5 instead of 3, we're not going to turn around and go to our buyer and be like, you owe me 0.5%. We don't operate that way. No. We always put the client first and their needs first, and whatever we need comes second, always. place. So that is huge. And, you know, in the restaurant business, you know, it's like the customer is always right, which is funny. My dad actually says, I don't believe in that. That's why I opened up my own restaurant. But the client is always right. And if you continuously, you know, don't do your job or you don't perform, you will shut down. So that's always been instilled in me. And then as far as, you know, putting myself out there, definitely my journalism degree and my, you know, working in the news business. While I was never on air, I definitely had the potential to be if I wanted to explore it. But I could have. It required me to move away from my family, and that's why I did not explore it, because Kentucky was actually a pretty big market for media. They didn't want to put anybody that hadn't been on air straight on air.
So you would have had to go to like some small town somewhere, but just to learn your way.
Right. I would have had to make $18,000 a year, carry my own camera, and kudos to the people that want to do that. But that wasn't me, because there was no way I was going to leave my family over that.
And you didn't need that path, because you had good stability, you had good opportunity doing what you were doing. And,
absolutely. You know. And once I got into the news business and you learn the ins and outs of it, you start to question, is this really something I want to do? Yeah. And while I had so many people come to me when I made the transition from going from news producer to full-time helping my family at the restaurant, like become the general manager, I had so many people tell me I was dumb. They were like, that's so stupid. I can't believe you're giving up your degree to go flip burgers. And I was like, it's so much more than that. You know, I'm helping my family build a legacy. Correct. And not just serve people food, but I'm helping these employees like change their life. Yeah. And at that point, I had seen it. I've seen it time and time again how many people we had helped. And so I ignored them. I ignored the haters, because there's always going to be the haters.
You can't listen to them.
I cannot listen to them. And so I left and I went all full in at the restaurant. And that is, I know that is what has helped me.
25?
When I went full-time at the restaurant, it was 2008, so I was 23.
23, okay.
Yeah, so I actually started working in the news business in college as an intern, as an unpaid intern, and I was supposed to be unpaid for a whole year, but 2 months in, they said, you're so good, we want to hire you, and they started paying me.
Was that was just an internship that you started as, and then they just said, we're going to keep them. We're going to keep her
we're going to keep her. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you could have had a great career doing that, but I think that the path that you took if you would have took that path, it wouldn't have led you here to Florida. Which I mean, I see your posts, I see my posts, like I put my posts up. Yeah. I feel like I live in paradise, right? So you had the ability to, you know, you only live once, right? And and now with the world, the way it's shrunk so much, you can literally live anywhere you want.
Absolutely.
And still find a way to get a job or create your own destiny, if you will.
Right.
When you did that, why don't you talk a little bit about your move here? Because if you started that when you were 20, you were 27, you did that with your mom for, 10 years?
Yeah, my mom did end up retiring from the real estate industry, I want to say around 2019. So I helped my mother for about 8 years in that capacity.
But that was right before, but you were still up there then at that point, because you've only been here for like 3.
Correct,
so.
Yeah. We moved here, we closed on our home in 2022.
Okay.
So my parents divorced in 2018, and that's when I was already essentially the right-hand woman, because I was the general manager. But that is when I kind of transitioned to really be, you know, kind of an unspoken joint owner. Because I was really in it. Like I was gonna think about like franchising and things like that, but then COVID hit and really changed the plan. But looking back now, it was the plan it was the plan that was supposed to happen all along. We went from 30 employees to 5 because it was delivery only. We had to shut down our dining room and things like that. So I tried to help my father as much as possible to keep the restaurant afloat with what we had going on. And then I essentially gave him a 1-year notice. Hey, I'm moving to Florida, because I learned my husband's job was going to stay remote because he's a computer engineer. So that's something that's really easy to keep at home. And as soon as he asked his boss if he can move to Florida, he said, yeah, just stay in the United States. And so I went to my dad and I said, we're moving. We're doing it. And he was devastated, to say the least.
That must have been hard.
It was, but I did leave him with plenty of notice.
You gave him
about
year.
a year's notice. And I slowly pulled myself out of the business, and I didn't leave him in a place that I felt like he couldn't handle it, because again, our business had drastically reduced.
How about your brother? Where were your brothers? Your 2 brothers in this whole design?
My two brothers were in it for most of the time.
On the younger years.
Yes, so
Okay.
they were definitely along with me with the school breaks and and things like that. Whenever we weren't in school, we were at the restaurant.
What school breaks?
Yeah. But my brother actually ended up joining the military, so he's a veteran. And then my other brother is now a poker player.
A professional poker player? Nice.
No, I don't think he has any like official endorsements from anyone, but he's definitely that, kind of Rain Man type where like those numbers are floating in his head and he can count cards and things like that.
He's living his best life.
Yeah, and so he is very much into going to casinos for tournaments or people's homes for tournaments and things like that, and he does really, really well. But they were definitely a huge part of the restaurant too. So when I say I worked with my family, it was all five of us.
Did either one of them dabble with the real estate with your mom, or was that just you?
No, it was just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You seem like, well, you're the daughter, so you kind of take care of everybody. That's just kind of, I think, what the way it is. So you stuck it out with your dad to the very end, pretty much end, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you also helped your mom with her business because you were started with your mom at 9.
Right.
And now you were able to carry it. So now let's kind of fast forward into some of the struggles that you saw and how you overcame them and how that relates to some of the people that you work with now today. Because I mean, I know, and like especially our market here, it's tight. Like I see a lot of people coming in, on the mortgage side, and they don't have 2 nickels to rub together, which is amazing. And here's a little bit different too. You have some people that will buy cash, but you either have the haves or the have-nots. I don't feel like there's a lot of middle ground for a lot of it. So through the struggles, through the restaurant, how does that help you work with the buyers that you work with, and also the people that are listing their homes? So what do you see in our market? I'm loading up the questions. Why don't we stop there, and then I'm going to go on, because I'm going to lead you to where I want to go. I want to see what you think the market is, or what people are thinking right now based on our market and a lot of houses sitting on the market.
Right.
Through those struggles that you had, how do you relate to these people, and what's the messaging that you're giving them?
Well, the messaging I'm giving them is that everything's always a cycle. I know right before the show we were talking about how like fashion's been recycling every 30 years, but everything in real estate's always a cycle. Right. And I remind people of that. So sellers that don't have to sell, maybe they consider renting out for a little bit, or or waiting it out, waiting for maybe interest rates to drop. But I understand that not everybody can wait. So if you cannot wait and you must sell your home, my advice is to make sure that you're listening to your agent and their expectations, because you can say, Bob down the street sold his home for twice as much 2 years ago, but the market has corrected. I don't think for a second that our market is slumping. It is correcting.
It's corrected.
What happened with COVID and everything with the housing market for those couple years was that just doesn't happen. That was such a weird time in our life, and we can't expect things to stay that way when it was something that was just so just out of this world.
And we were like 20-30% over everyone else that was already inflated. So it wasn't like Florida was right in line with everybody else. We had an additional 20% over everybody else.
Right.
So, I mean, all it did was correct that little piece. And I mean, our weather here didn't really help much, but I don't have any wood here.
I know, right?
But we're almost there. We're almost at the finish line.
Yeah.
And the predictors that I see too is that, they're the least amount of storms that they've seen in a long time over here, so, which means we might be back to normal, which means people they have short memories. Right. So we have one good season. That's going to open up a lot of, that's why I'm trying to tell people, and I'm sure you are, like, if you think you need to do this move, there's not a better time, because the prices are a little bit soft.
Right.
Where you're going to have some mobility, like meaning if you need to get some credits or some concession from the seller, they're going to be thinking about doing that more so now than they would if we get out of this and the rates continue to kind of drop into those lower 6s and 5s.
Right.
That's going to change the market dramatically, I believe.
Absolutely.
And it's like now is the time, like, you can buy, and even if you have to sell a little low, you're buying low.
Right. exactly.
Right? So there's no perfect time for any of it.
That Bob down the street that sold for twice as much, he had to turn around and buy a house that was also overpriced.
Correct.
So he didn't really win. And then I tell people, when you zoom out, real estate's always on the up. You know,
Correct.
yeah, we have a dip from 2022, 2023, where if you bought during those times, more than likely you're not going to get what you paid for at this moment unless you majorly improved on it. However, you just have to remember, like, when you zoom out, real estate is one of the best investments you can make. And I know that because I bought my first house when I was 19. And this is why I am where I am. You know, some people can say, oh, your life has been, they can just look at me and be like, oh, well, you have it so easy. Your parents were entrepreneurs and you have a husband that has a cushy salary and benefits, but they don't know everything I have done and been through to get where I'm at today. Right. And, to be honest, my own father-in-law went to my parents and said, is Jennifer moving in with Steven because she can't help pay her rent? And they just laughed at him. They were like, you obviously don't know our daughter. They were like, wow, you obviously don't realize that she actually has already owned a home and sold it. And I actually sold it in 2008 when the market was crap.
And made money.
And I made money, exactly. So it's crazy to me when people just assume things about me just because on the surface my life looks perfect.
It's easy, though, for people to do that. Just like on the surface level, just throw out careless things, without even really knowing anything. But which I think, like, platforms like, not just this one, but many social media platforms, when people get to actually know who you are and what makes you tick, that's what keeps the people sending you more referrals. That's what's getting you to the top 5% in the area, like, because of the people that have already been working with you. Now that you mentioned your house, which was on a list, I always believe in home ownership at a young age, because you got a good head start, so you can talk to the Gen Zers, even the millennials that are kind of still probably the top buying group right now. They started super late. I think in their 30s to start buying houses. But I think we're starting to see a turn, because we're starting to see a lot more Gen Zers coming into the market and buying.
Yes.
You have that back when you were doing it. You're millennial?
Yes, I'm actually considered what you call an elder millennial.
You're on the cusp. You're like the cusp of both. So you bought when you were like a Gen Zer, pretty much today, in today's world, right? And you were able to see the benefits of that. So when you're talking to some Gen Zers, or even maybe the latter of the millennials that are maybe in their 30s, tell them about that experience, or tell the people that are watching that experience and how it changed your life, and how you utilize that experience to help you with what you do today and how you deliver to those younger clients that are looking to buy.
Yeah, so again, I purchased the home in 2004, and that's when no doc loans existed. And that's actually what got us into the mess in 08. But I will say my brother and I were not part of the problem. But we had excellent credit, and I credit my parents again. Financial literacy, again, we didn't have a lot, and while they owned businesses, they were in a ton of debt. And so we were in their office, we saw their whiteboards, we saw how they were like knocking out their debt little by little. They were very transparent about things, like, hey, we don't have a lot, but you're fed, and we're working on making a better life.
Correct.
And so I thank them to this day for always teaching us about financial literacy, because we definitely didn't learn it in schools, or they try to like brush on it, but just nowhere. A lot of people I come in contact with, didn't even know like what their credit score was. I was very aware what credit scores were, at age 10, and my credit score right now is like an 870. So and that's like the one thing, like all of us in this family have amazing credit because you were
taught early.
Absolutely.
And I was the opposite, which is crazy, because like my family, when they came here, they didn't want to use credit cards.
Right.
And my mom just didn't have it. They didn't have any money to even have credit, to put it that way. So when I actually went to get the job to get into the mortgage banking, they pulled your credit, and I had none. So they're like, "How's your credit?" I'm like, "Great."
Right. Yeah. No credit is sometimes worse than bad credit.
Like, no debt. I'm like, perfect. They're like, you have no credit. They weren't going to hire me. That's a whole other story, but bullying my way in. And then my parents, on the other hand, were like most people, like, this is why you're so fortunate, and how you learning that at a young age and how you can help other people now. When I was young, my family and a lot of other families, they didn't talk about their money. It was a secret, big secret.
Yeah.
Like now I'm in the business. It's like no big deal for me. Like, oh, I make X amount a year. You make X. Because it's like common topic, right? That's what I do for business.
Yeah.
But back then it was like kind of taboo to be like, oh, don't look at your dad, the pay stubs. Don't look at that. That's secret, like a secret, right?
Right, absolutely.
Where you didn't have that. And a lot of people probably didn't come out of it because history repeats itself.
Correct.
Luckily, I got into this business because I was able to learn a lot about credit and self-taught just because of the way I landed. So you can add a lot of value to any client, any young client, because you're talking to them outside of the box. Meaning you're not just a real estate agent, right? In a sense, you're more of a consultant,
Absolutely.
Right? And you're talking to them like, you know, you don't have to be an expert on the mortgage side necessarily at all, but you're an expert in life and that financial literacy piece, which is a huge deal. Like meaning, okay, hey, you're going to go into contract on this house. Then you hear them say, "Oh man, I'm gonna go get that couch set for this or something."
Right,
like, you're like, "Ding, ding, ding!" Listen, don't be doing anything with your credit right now because you understand it because you went through it and you watched your parents teaching you all this stuff when you were young.
They taught us the difference between bad debt and good debt. And while some of their debt was credit card debt, they categorized it as good debt because it was used to help the business.
Correct.
It wasn't, you know, oh, we went on a lavish vacation or bought a brand new couch. It was debt that they amassed because they needed it, like buy restaurant equipment or things like that. Better equipment, things like that, investing back into the business. So we were very fortunate to see the difference between good debt and bad debt. And then that meant sometimes we didn't have a lavish Christmas and they would let us know, like, hey guys, we're getting there, but this Christmas we're going to have to skip presents or we're just going to do this one thing for everybody and that's going to be it. And we understood because they were just always transparent about everything.
You knew, which a lot of people, you knew the why to the what, like which a lot of people don't get that.
Right.
You know.
So when we had this opportunity, so what happened was when I was 19, I actually lived in an apartment with my brother because what happened was I got accepted into college with a full ride scholarship to Bellarmine University, which is like a private liberal arts college in Louisville, Kentucky. And I was going to move onto campus, and I quickly learned that I was going to have to buy a food card. And I did not want to have to buy a food card.
You got a restaurant.
I know. I worked at my parents' restaurant. I made sure to never do a class from 11 to 1 so I could go at least work lunch rush. And then sometimes, again, I was working a different restaurant in the evening doing carry out or waitressing or something like that. And so I was very much against buying this food card. I was like really passionate. I'm like, nope, not moving on to campus anymore. And I'm so glad that it worked out like that. So I went to my brother, who we both still lived at home. He was a year older than me, and he was going to the University of Louisville. And I said, hey, Justin, I don't want to live on campus anymore because they're making me purchase a food card. And do you want to rent an apartment with me? Because I knew he would pay his bills.
Yeah,
I knew
you could trust him.
Right. He was a nice, quiet roommate, things like that. And actually, our other brother did live with us for a while, but then that's when he went into the Army. So that's why I'm only concentrating on the one brother. So we moved into a nice apartment, a nicer apartment than most people will ever live in their lives. So again, very fortunate to have that, you know, that strong work ethic and that, you know, building up my, you know, savings and things like that. And so my brother and I went on a cruise with our significant others. And on the way back, we were driving through Louisiana and a semi-truck hit us, rear-ended us going 70 miles an hour. The fact that we walked away like without any broken bones, like the four of us, was a miracle.
That's
like
a miracle,
when our attorney saw our pictures, he was like, oh my gosh, how are you even sitting across from me? So after everything was said and done, everybody in that car received a $10,000 accident settlement, which now that I think about that was not enough.
Yeah, the personal injury protection.
Right. So we get this check, and my mom says, I remember actually after the lawyer cut, it was actually more like $6,000. But so we're sitting there, and my mom said, what are you going to do with that money? And this is actually before she became a real estate agent. And I said, well, I don't know, go on another vacation, you know? Like, yeah, you know? And she was like, why don't you buy a house? And I was like, we can't buy a house. And she's like, why not? She was like, let's go ask somebody to pull your credit. And, you know, they made us get credit cards when we were 18.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I went to Express, which is a clothing store. And I qualified based on the fact I was a college student. student, and they gave me a $200 credit limit. And I would spend the money, I would pay it off. Spend the money, pay it off. And then eventually I was getting more offers, and I would put gas on it, things like that, and I would put it on there, and pay it off every month. And so that 1 year, I really built up my credit.
That's awesome.
And then we were able to bring about 10% down. Wow. And we got the house. It was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath ranch for $150,000, and we purchased it from one of my dad's best friend. He was actually a realtor, so we actually didn't even really get real estate agents involved, except for the fact that he was the owner. And so he was able to save money, and so we got a really good deal on this home. And we lived in it for 4 years. And then once we got to a point where we were ready to take the next step in our life, I was like, I don't want to live with my brother forever. We sold the house, and that's my one regret. I wish we would have held on to it for a rental. So keep that in mind. If you are in a situation where you can hold on to your first home and rent it out, I definitely suggest
100%.
it. However, I wanted that profit out of the house because while I did get a full ride and I did work other jobs, I did have a little bit of debt that there were sometimes I didn't work as much to concentrate on my studies. And so I did have a little bit of debt that I wanted to pay off. I did not want to come out of college with debt. So I was able to take that money, come out of college without debt, and then I was like, I'm just going to take a year and live in an apartment and assess what my next move is. And during that 1 year is when I met Stephen, my husband.
Okay. All right. And you guys date for a while?
We actually dated for about 2 years before we got engaged. And so, well, actually, we got engaged a little less than 2 years into it, and then we were married about 2.5 years in. But we knew on the first date. We actually went to high school together. This is another cool story. We went to high school together, but we never dated, but we would always see each other in the hallways.
Was he older or younger?
He was older. He was 2 years older.
So older.
And he actually had some classes with my brother. But I would see him in the hallways, and I'm like, oh, he is so cute. And he told me that he would think the same of me, but we both thought we were out of each other's leagues.
Wow,
so,
that's wild.
Yeah, and then we kept running into each other, but one of us always had a significant other. And then finally, thanks to MySpace. I saw he was single, and I was single at the same time, and so we messaged each other, and then the rest is history.
Nice. Yeah. All right. So I mean, you right from the same hometown, so that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So let's see, where are we at here? Let me take a peek. So I want to know a little bit more about one thing we're going to lightly touch on. I put lightly because I think it's a big step of your journey. Is you want a light acknowledgement of the sobriety piece?
Oh, absolutely, yes. So
I do want to talk about that a little bit. Like, where did you find yourself first coming off the rails? I mean, for me, high school, even middle school was like, I grew up in the Northeast, so there's not much to do other than drink, fight, and all that stuff. That's pretty much what you did. In the middle of the woods, you drink every weekend and all that stuff, and then that kind of like snowballs into where it was. And I had my own journey, but I know that you wanted you might not have had as bad as a lot of other people, but as bad enough in your world, right? And you could shine some light on that and how you can help other people.
Yeah. And what I like that you said, when did it go off the rails? And I think that's a really important thing to ask, because I never felt like I went off the rails. However, I always knew that it was a problem. And so that's really important to hold on to, because I had so many people around me convincing me I didn't have a problem, but I knew I did. And so when you have people around you being like, oh, you still show up for your job and you still show up for your kids, you don't have a problem. You got to ignore that. That's people trying to keep you down so they can, it's the whole misery loves company thing. And they may not, I'm not saying that they're bad people, but they are trying to hold on to that version of me that they know and they love. And so I get why they did and why they said what they did.
It tethers you, right? So you can't get to that next level.
Right. So there's not really like a rock bottom for me that like, oh, there's like this one moment that like flipped a switch
Yeah.
for everything. It was actually a slow burn. It was about a year or two. It was actually, I moved down to Florida. You know, I was really living the life, you know,
Here.
especially because I hadn't really launched in real estate yet. You know, you go to the beach, you feel like it's a vacation every day.
Get a
and
Corona with a lime, right?
Yeah. It's like, you know, if beach meant drink,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
going out to dinner meant you
Glass
drink.
of wine, yeah.
And then it even turned to the point where even like kids' birthday parties and baby showers had alcohol in it. So
Yeah.
it's like you're constantly surrounded by, you think it's okay because again, you show up for, you know, you have money in the bank, you show up for your family, you know, you don't think you have a problem. But I knew deep down inside I had to make a change. And I just started following like sober curious accounts on Instagram and like following inspirational pages, especially ones that were like towards, you know, getting rid of alcohol or getting rid of things that don't serve you. And I would just make sure anytime I felt like I needed a drink or wanted to drink that I would go to those things. Like sometimes I was whipping it out in the middle of a bar, like going through the scroll, like just reading, you know, alcohol's poison, you know, just like anything to remind me that like I don't need this in my life. And one thing that really stuck with me was fast forward the tape. And I would sit there, I would be in a situation where it was like, okay, do you want to drink? And then I would fast forward the tape. Okay, tomorrow morning when I wake up, how do I want to feel? I don't want to feel like crap. And as you get older, a lot of us realize we cannot handle the alcohol. Our bodies cannot handle the alcohol. And I just came to a point where I was like, if I am praying to be at this certain level in my career and in my life, I have to get rid of the habits that are holding me back. And that was probably like just the clarity that just really hit me, because there was one time that I had to meet a client and I was severely hungover. I had only had about 2 glasses of wine at dinner, so I didn't think I had overdone it, but apparently I did. And that whole time I was with that client, I kept it together, but deep down I was like, I can't do this.
You're not the best version of yourself at that moment.
Absolutely not.
Right?
And so my circle and who I have around me has drastically changed. I used to be terrified of quitting drinking because I didn't know what my life would look like.
Where will I fit in? All
Right.
this stuff, right?
But now I look at it as a superpower.
It is.
I love walking into a room of drunk people, and I know
control.
it sounds weird, but like honestly, I feel like I can relax because they're drinking, so I don't really feel like
going on.
they don't even know what's going on. But no, I'm not triggered by any means, and it's been about, I want to say 15 months, and I don't have any desire to pick up another drink again. It's I've seen this side of it, and it's been beautiful, and it's been blessed, and like, why am I going to ruin that for poison?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, I quit in 2006 for like 6 years. I didn't have a drop, like not even a drop. And then after that, I integrated some back, but it was definitely more of a social thing at that point where I didn't drink. Like I could have a beer or two. And the last probably year and a half, I started doing a lot of triathlons, so drinking obviously isn't conducive to training.
Right.
At like 4 a.m. So, and I liked having those things on the calendar because it helped me like not drink. Not that I really wanted to, but it's a lot easier Saturday night if someone's like, hey, have a drink, and I don't have nothing to do on Sunday morning other than go to church. I can have a drink or two, but knowing I got to go ride 100 miles on my bike, I'm like,
but see, that didn't stop me. I would wake up and I would still sometimes be drunk, and I would go to a stationary indoor cycling class and sweat it out. And to me, I was excusing the behavior.
Yeah, because I'm sweating it out.
At least I'm working out today.
Yeah,
you know,
burning it out. Yeah, that's funny. So, you know, now it's like this last year, I think I might have drinking once, and like even after I had it, I'm like, why did I? Why? What was the point of that? And you know, for me, it was kind of writing down back when I first did it. Was writing down all the good things drinking had done for me, and all the bad things it's done for me. You can imagine what side of the list. You know, everything that bad that's ever happened in my life, there was alcohol involved every single time, and I don't think there was anything. I mean, if I look back at it, I don't really think. Maybe I got some fun fun stories, maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever,
well, the
but
thing is,
I have a lot of fun stories without it.
That's the thing, and
know?
that's exactly what I was going to say. You think it's the alcohol creating the fun, but when you remove it and you get past whatever it is that your mindset is about alcohol, and you really live the life, you're like, it was never the alcohol, it was me, or it was my best friend that was hilarious, that made me laugh. It wasn't the alcohol ever. And it's funny, sometimes people see me dancing at, like, say, Christmas parties or things like that, and they'll see me with a cup, because one thing that really got,
there she is again.
They'll be like, that better be water or whatever. That they couldn't believe, like, oh, a sober person's out there drinking, and it's like, no, it was. I love dancing. I love being around people. I love talking.
Just living.
Just
without,
living
without having to something to impair you to do it.
Right.
Like you could freely do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that was the most freeing thing when I first started, was that I could act up without it.
Yeah.
It'd be like, you know what, I would be around the drinking people, but I could tell you my tolerance level now. Oh yeah. I think it's about 9 o'clock. I don't want to be around it much longer than that. Like, okay.
But you know, my favorite part about putting down the booze is that my kids noticed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I'm surprised they're young, then they still noticed.
Well, you know, my parents were very transparent, so I'm carrying the legacy. I don't hide any, you know, my kids come up to me with any question, I will answer it honestly, because I'd rather them get the information from me than Google.
Somewhere else.
Because it's so easy for kids to get information now. Like back in the day, we actually had to find an encyclopedia at a library, but now they can just walk in my husband's office and be like, okay, Google, you know, like, what's this
now
mean?
ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. So, but I love the fact that my daughter will, like, see me with a drink and she'll be like, oh, so how many days are you now? Or and I can be like, actually, do you want to taste this? It's really good. It's just this kind of juice or whatever. And so that's been my favorite part, is them noticing and seeing me give up something that was so ingrained in my life and how I'm thriving because of it.
Well, you were in the restaurant business. I mean, it just kind of goes hand in hand. Everything goes hand in hand. Not that it was excessive or not excessive. It just, you know, you go out or you're in that scenario, it's the drink is in hand, right?
Right.
And it's, you know, for me, for a while, not that I cared, I would get like a soda water with a splash of cranberry, would put a lime in it, and just to not hear people. Yeah. And I had to cut out a lot of people in my life, which I think helped my business. You know, I had some friends that supported me that were still drinking, like, hey, no, don't. No big deal, man. We love you. Then I had the friends that would be like, you're not going to do a shot. You're going to do just one shot. Don't do da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, bro, I'm done. Right. Like, why are you doing it? Like, every time it was that, I said, I'm done.
Right.
Done with you. Like,
I
why?
actually used to hang out with somebody who's a huge part of my life, and I would do these like 30-day stints where I wouldn't drink, and as soon as the 30 days were over and I would drink, she would be like, oh, there's the Jennifer I know, or there's the fun Jennifer, and it put in my head that the alcohol was what made me
like, that was what I was
likable. So just taking notice of who's around you, who's in your circle. That is such a huge difference. And meeting Dawn, you know, she didn't immediately tell me that she was in recovery, but then I shared the story about how at my family's restaurant we employed a bunch of people in recovery, and how I learned a ton from them, like more than any school I've ever went to. And that's when she felt comfortable to tell me about her story. And then that's just when it came full circle for me. I was like, I was at this restaurant for 25 years working with people in recovery, while sometimes I was puking in a trash can on a Monday because I Sunday fun day too hard. And here I am now, and my business partner's in recovery, and she's been a huge help. You know, I remember when I first put it down, I would send her pictures of my mocktails and be like, look at what I'm drinking. It's a no-hito, and you know, and she would clap, and you know, it really helped me seeing how much she turned her life around too.
So, and I don't think it, like, in any way, shape, or form, I don't see that it affected your business. So I don't think that I would ask, how's your business changed since you haven't done it? But I think mentally for you, you overcame something personally, which just by inevitably opens you up more, right, to being better. It doesn't necessarily, no one else would have noticed it, no one else would have did anything. So but you knowing that you did this accomplishment, not that it was bad, like, not that you were horrible or like off the rails, like, so to speak, right? But it was like, you know, that's just one more thing that you overcame, right, which just gives you more power in a sense
Absolutely.
to take over anything else. It's like just one more thing, one more arrow in your quiver. It's like, okay, I did that. What else can I do?
Right.
What can I do?
Right. You know, the time that I used to spend hungover on the couch, I'm now, prospecting for leads,
Correct.
So it has helped. I'm spending my time more wisely, and I'm asking myself, is this bettering me, my family, or my business? And if the answer is no, then I'm not doing it.
So you're living intentionally, right? That would be like everything is with intent. Like, okay, today I'm doing this. This is something I'm doing with my family. I'm doing with my kids. And again, I think going back to the business side of it, people admire that, right? And the people, especially people that want to buy a house, right? They want to work with somebody and secretly respect it. I mean, no one's going to ever come out, I just love so much that you're, straight edge, and, no one's ever going to say that. But I think of it too back. I always try to tell my kids, I'm like, think about the people that you respected. I always respect the people that stay calm, to stay, and they don't flip out, or they're not the people in control. Yeah. Right? Like, no one's going to say that, but it's the truth, right? I admire that in people. Like, okay, this is a straight up person. Like,
absolutely,
they're in control of it. I can trust them because they're never out of control. Yeah. And that carries through your business. And I think it's important for people that are watching this, that are looking for people to work with. If we send any message out, it's like, you know what, you got to have somebody that works very hard, right? Someone you can trust, and someone that has control, and someone that's all about, for me, I'm faith driven with my, as a Christian. So that's one thing they say on social media, you don't talk about, politics or religion. The one thing, I won't talk politics, and I don't get into any controversial things, but I will profess my faith on there, and if someone doesn't like that, I'll be okay with it. Like, okay, maybe I'm not for you. That's fine. Absolutely. And I'm not on there using it as a pulpit or anything like that either. But, if I hear a good message, I'll post it or whatever.
Yeah, same here.
But I think it carries on, and people respect it and desire it, and we should be a witness, not a browbeater or Bible beater on the corner, right? But I think people observe a lot more than we think they do, and they're watching your actions, and they admire those actions in the way that you live. So I think that, to a testament to your, not just your business, but your family life and the way you do and more people should know the background to how you get it, because they could just look at, oh, this guy, he probably came from a rich family, he got everything handed to him, and he's got these houses. Like, I hear that also, like, they're like, and I tell them my story, and they're like, I would have had no idea. They're right. You don't, because how do we tell people like that? Not I can share your story, right, which we're doing here. Like, I can share and kind of put that out there so people can see it, because no one wants to hear someone brag about their story of doing it, but how can you get it out there to people can relate to it? How many people have been in the same shoes as us, coming up from a hard bootstrap life, right? And I think you have a really cool story, because you had two a mother and a father that had the entrepreneurs that both had drive, and they handed that to you and helped you kind of mold that, which shouldn't be a secret, right?
And, to go off of that, I think and maybe we're going to touch on it later too, the social media part has been huge for me, and just being authentic.
Correct.
And while I don't post about politics, other than the fact I don't believe in a two-party system, so call me independent, whatever you want to do, I don't pick a side, and I don't care if you say that that's cheating, but that's how I've always thought that way. We need more than just two choices in this country.
Correct.
That's how I've always, and my parents voted for Ross Perot, which was which is funny, because my husband ended up working for Perot Systems, which was owned by Ross Perot at some point, and then it turned into Dell. But so I was like, oh, that's so funny, Ross Perot's your boss. But
they were like kind of trailblazers in a sense, right?
But I did, I've always been very, very vulnerable and upfront on my social media page. I don't shove it down people's throats, but it all started back when after I had our second child, back about 9 years ago, I started getting into fitness, and I started putting my my progress online.
Okay.
And I, of course, got haters saying that I was bragging or whatever, but I had many more people tell me how much they, just were inspired by me. Because here I was working sometimes 60, 70 hours a week, have 2 young kids at home, and I'm finding the time to wake up and work out and, get fit and healthy. That helped a bunch of people. And so when I got, when I stopped drinking alcohol, I actually put up this one post about how I hadn't had a drink in 7 months. And I always make sure to put in my post that I'm not trying to shame anyone. I'm just trying to inspire, because that's always my goal.
Correct.
So I actually had put a post up that I hadn't had a drink in 7 months. And on that same day, I went to a post that somebody had asked, what's the 55 plus communities in Lakewood Ranch? And of course, you've seen it as a mortgage lender. There's about 100 to 200 comments, okay? And there's really nothing you can do to stand out in those comments. You put your name and your number and you hope that they call you. Yeah. So I just simply answered the question. I didn't even put my contact info. I just said, the communities are Del Webb, one's existing, one's up and coming, and Crestwind. And I left it at that. And a week later, I had a woman reach out to me in my direct messages on Facebook, and she said, hi, I was going to see if you could take me around some communities today or this weekend. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I just got to Orlando. I'm part of Women's Council. We're here for a conference. I said, but I have a business partner who is, back home, and she can. And she said, oh, well, we were hoping to talk to you because you had commented that, what the communities were, and I went to your page and I saw that you hadn't drank in 7 months, and my husband also recently quit alcohol. And I said, oh, well, you're in for a treat, because Dawn's actually been sober longer than me. So of course Dawn called her, and Dawn had a 45-minute conversation with her, and they're coming down next month to purchase in Crestwind.
That is awesome.
And I teach that in my social media class, because I actually teach a class at my brokerage once a month. Nice. I was asked by the broker to teach a class once a month, and I share that story because I'm like, people are so afraid of putting themselves out there. They think they're going to be judged, but those people are not for you if they're judging you. But you will find your people, and they will find you, and you guys will be great together. And so people just need to stop being scared to put their vulnerabilities online.
That's it. Yeah, to be vulnerable. And I think, if you wouldn't have put that post, one of those other 10,000 people would have sent you a message, right? Yeah.
Never once did they ask me my sales experience or how long I've been doing it.
No.
They reached out to me because of that one thing.
No, and I think that, the next part of it, now that you said that, is the marketing branding part and the consistency. And I like that you teach a class on it. I mean, I've always been a guerrilla marketer, like ever since, when I opened up my first office, I had a TV show up north. I was on every radio station. I worked with all the VJs. I did their loans. And when Facebook really came out, I started really engaging, and I want to say 2008 is when it was starting to become relative to us. And I said, oh my word, I'm spending, $30,000 a month in radio, or I'm spending whatever, like 3,000. I'm like, I can create an audience.
Right.
And it won't cost me any money. Like I can build something out. And I was, I had this, what was it called? Mortgage Dreams in Motion, where I would go to different local restaurants and people and like things to do in all these different communities, and I just would put all these videos out. And marketing was a big piece of the guerrilla marketing. I didn't technically really know what I was doing, and then I would go to these classes to learn about it from this guy who was teaching me, and I'm like, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know it, but now I'm now I can just like kind of move that dial and consciously do it. And I think, and you can correct me if you do it a different way. My thing was always to give, and then with an ask, like on my social media. So it's I always had this rule of, I want people to see me as a human being, kind of like what you did. You put your vulnerability out there. It wasn't about my listing or my this or my that. I wanted people to see me as what I do. And most of it was what I like to do in my free time is do things with my family. So I always had my kids in pictures or doing stuff with my kids. And I feel like I get people that message me on the back end. I need to do a mortgage. Like it's people I haven't talked to in 100 years. But like I remember I was in a grocery store one time and like, oh, Marley Pants is getting so big. So I used to go. I'm like, I'm looking at this person. I'm like, what?
Whoa,
well, that's kind of weird. But like,
that's hilarious.
it's like they're part of my life. It's like my own sitcom, right? We have our own. We have all these channels that are really our sitcom, our own sitcom that people are either going to dial into or not dial into. And then when we're in our business to consumer, I want people dialing in.
Right.
You know, I want people like paying attention to what I'm doing, and then I'll drop the mortgage tip or the this or that, just as a reminder of remember, you know, this is something that value that you can take.
Right.
But when you need a mortgage, just know that this is what I do.
Absolutely.
But what is your take on the power of the marketing that you guys, because obviously you didn't just get to the, you know, top 5% in our market or better by luck.
Right.
You know, a lot of it has to do with not just sheer hard work either. You can't just get there with just sheer hard work, because we all work hard.
Yeah.
What is some of the marketing, branding, some of those things that you do that you find have been valuable for your business?
Social media, hands down. Before I went full-time in this business, when I moved to Florida, like I had previously mentioned, I was sharing my progress at fitness online. So I had gotten over the whole like, being scared of putting myself out there, especially after that. So for me, being authentic and real was always at the forefront. So I never bought into the fact that I should have a separate business page. And I teach this in the class of the agents. There's some businesses that you should, you know, it makes sense to have things separate. Like if I were to own, say, like a pressure washing business, I probably would not, you know, put too much, I don't know, just, it's not, I just feel like our field is something that we're just so close to people, and it's so personal that I want them to know me, and I want them to feel like they feel comfortable around me.
It's an intimate sale. You washing my house is like, go wash my house. I'm not going to spend 30 days with them, right? And
absolutely.
Like, and all
in
that
a car
stuff that you're going to do.
Yeah, for the biggest purchase of their life.
Correct.
So it wasn't foreign to me to put in the personal aspect of things, but I did quickly learn what I needed to do to break through the clutter. Because when I moved down here, I remember I told my family, I was like, I am not going to become a full-time real estate agent. There is no way. I might get my license, but that is not what I'm going to do. Yeah. Because I had come from a career where I knew when I was going to work and I could turn it off. And working with my mom in real estate, I saw that business happens all the time. So at that moment, I was like, I don't want that chaotic schedule that it can be. So that was what I was scared of. But I just kept feeling the pull to it, especially when I'm browsing the MLS for fun on the couch. You know, it's kind of one of those things that's relaxing. I'm like looking at the MLS. It's like, well, I might as well make money doing this. So I started making sure that I just downloaded these like Etsy templates that were made in Canva, and I would make sure to brand it with my face and my information, and you know, and I just started every now and then put out like, do you like this kitchen or that kitchen? Some more interactive things. Engage, get them engaging. Exactly. With you. So I was getting traction that way, but I wasn't getting any real bites. But you also have to remember, I was only a couple months in the business, and I literally knew like nobody. So that's when my journalism background kind of kicked in. After a few months, when I wasn't really getting any bites from my social media, I was looking at these templates, and I was like, you know, everybody's doing this, and you know, it's not a bad way to start. It's not a bad way to, you know, break through. Yeah. That's when I was like, okay, let me tune into my journalism background. And I remember asking the executive producer back in the early 2000s, I said, why are we sending this person out to the jail when it's dark and closed and no new news has happened? Like, why are we putting our reporter out on the street in downtown Louisville at 5 a.m. when it's the same news as 10 p.m. from the night before? And that's when she looked at me and said, it helps with credibility. If we have a reporter out on the field, they're going to believe and that more of what we're saying than if we just stick her in the newsroom. And so I thought of the newsroom as those Canva templates, and I thought of me putting myself in videos as going out on the field and you know, building trust with people. So about 4 to of 5 months in, I went to Sweetwater at Lakewood Ranch, which is like close to me. And I went in there and I said, can I film one of your model homes? And so I said, when I look back at this video, it's terrible. Like, you know, as far as like the quality of it.
Done is better than perfect.
Right. So I'm standing here in this model home. I don't even have a microphone on, so it's all like echoey and overmodulated. And I'm like, hi, I'm Jennifer Salome, and welcome to Sweetwater. And then I, you know, cut to the footage. And so what happened was I put that video out. I made sure to tag I was in Lakewood Ranch, because that's important, guys. You got to tag your locations.
Okay.
That helps your reach, in case you didn't know. And so I tagged myself in Lakewood Ranch. This is on Facebook and Instagram. And I remember the next day I went to a listing appointment. And it was like a 55-plus community. And it was for a $170,000 condo. And I thought I did amazing at this presentation. And actually, my mom was with me because it was one of her friends that she was introducing me to. And her friend was like, yeah, you know, you can go ahead and come along too. And my mom even told me, she's like, oh yeah, you did amazing. Well, I found out I did not get it, and I cried. I cried. I just like could not believe I did not get this listing. However, a couple hours later, I get a ding, and it's somebody that saw my video, and they ended up purchasing an $825,000 house for me.
Wow,
and
good.
I thank God first, because I was like, I lost that $170,000 deal so I could focus on this buyer that needed to buy this new construction home, not in Sweetwater, but a different neighborhood. But he found me because I had tagged Lakewood Ranch. And, you know, we got the deal, we got it done. And that taught me at that moment to always look at rejection as a redirection. And there's always something better. So if you want to cry over something, that's fine, wipe your tears, but just know that something better is coming. Keep moving, because I know in that point in my career, being so new, I don't know if I would have had the mindset to do both at the same time. Now I can do like
now you
20 deals at once, like, and, you know, like nothing. But in that moment, I know I would have been overwhelmed. So so that moment there taught me about, you know, just handling rejection well.
And do you do a lot of that stuff between the team? Are you the main marketing I know Dawn puts her stuff up, because I do see Dawn puts her stuff up, but do you do a lot of the marketing and stuff and branding for you guys? As you know, we started out as solo agents. Yes.
What I really admired about Dawn is her boots to the ground approach. She will go knock on a FSBO. She will go door knock. She will cold call. She will do literally like whatever. And that's her thing, and it's amazing. Me, I'm more of like the marketer, more of the detail oriented, things like that.
You got a plan.
We have a plan. I have a plan.
She's a renegade. She'll go off the cuff and make things happen.
Exactly.
I'm gonna stop that. We gotta have 2 minutes after this. So
okay. So we quickly realized that if we joined together, we could take our two very big strengths and we can put them together and we can explode. And I mean, it's been almost a year now, and I honestly can't believe how much it has exploded.
A lot of times you're like, okay, well, all right. You didn't have the thought that most people would be like, oh, I got to split my. You were more like, you know what, we're going to triple. I'm going to triple what I could do by myself. Right. By having this other person.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's kind of, I did the same thing when I hired Julie. I needed an assistant. This was back in 2003. And I'm like, my brother was my business partner. I owned my own brokerage. And I'm like, John, I'm like, at like 5 to 7 loans a month. I know I could do 20, but I'm self-sabotaging myself because, one, I don't want to do a lot of this other stuff. I hate it. Right. And I'm like, and he's like, well, how are you going to pay someone to do it? I'm like, I can't afford not to. Right. Right. Like, I'm going to divide and conquer. If I have someone doing all this stuff I don't like, I'm going to just focus on what I'm good at. Absolutely. Then I know I can make it rain. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, there were months I think we're closing 30 plus 40 loans a month. I mean, just me, like going crazy that I couldn't have done. I wouldn't have done. Not even I couldn't have done. I wouldn't have done because I didn't have those skill sets on this side. Yeah. And I didn't want those skill sets either. You know, if that makes sense. I didn't want to get better at that. I just wasn't comfortable. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me like what I was doing. So I want to do this before we end this because I got some. I want a quick round. I guess wrap up like quick fire round. Okay. Just because we'll do something fun. And I hope you guys are enjoying this because, you know, I think it's important for you to understand what makes us tick in our industry and how we like to make things happen. And my phone, I brought my phone in here and it rings at the same time. It's been kind of going crazy. So quick round 5. Favorite book, quote, or a tool that you swear by?
I have actually 3 favorite books, and I'll tell you why I like each of them. The 4 Agreements, it taught me not to take anything personal, because there's a chapter about it.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits by James Clear. I really learned how to habit stack and get my habits in order after reading that book. And then The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weiss.
Oh, yeah, I heard it. I haven't read that one.
That book helped me get rid of intrusive thoughts. So if you find yourself like always like worrying or can't get rid of, like, you know, you wake up at 2 in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, are we going to get this condo insured because there's a 10-year-old water heater? Like, that used to be me.
Yeah.
I read that book and I am able to put that intrusive thought on a little cloud and let it float away.
That's cool.
So definitely read that book.
Read or listen?
I actually like to read.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to listen to podcasts and things, but I like to read.
You like to read the book. You want the book, you can highlight it.
Yes.
Sometimes I buy the Audible book and I buy the hardcover so I can listen as I... Because sometimes I get a different... Sometimes I'll like skim through it. So. And
then guided breath work is my tool. That's helped me slow down. It's helped me be able to delegate.
Do you have an app? Use an app for it?
Breathe with Sandy on YouTube. He's amazing.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and put this down.
Yes.
So Breathe with Sandy on YouTube.
Yes.
That's cool. Okay.
Yes.
So let me say, what's Jennifer's single best piece of advice for a new or a seasoned agent?
Well, for a new agent, find what you like to do and what your strengths are and being consistent about it. Like I said, I teach a class once a month at my brokerage, and I tell people to post at least 3 times a week. Most people are pretty good about it for about a week or 2, and then I notice it, pew, and the people that actually listen to my advice, a.k.a. Dawn, they're on the up and up.
They're rising up.
So the people, whether it's social media or a wider range of things, like, you have to be consistent. You can't just do something for a couple weeks and be like, this isn't working, I'm going to quit doing it. You have to keep putting yourself out there. Seasoned agents, learn something new. Put yourself in rooms. As much as I love social media and I credit it for getting my start, putting myself in rooms where I feel uncomfortable because everybody else around me seems smarter, that has really changed my mindset about things. You start seeing people and you're like, oh, I can do what they're doing. Like, I'm just as smart as them. Like, I can do that.
Maybe smarter.
Right? There's sometimes Dawn and me leave things and we're like, we could have done that. But just putting yourself in rooms that make you feel uncomfortable and learn, if AI is like, like scaring you, like, embrace it. Like, take a class or 2, learn about it. I don't love AI, but it has streamlined a few things in my business. It's learning how to incorporate it to make the right way. Exactly.
Yeah, I believe that. And then let's do one more. Let's see. All right. Well, this is where I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Where can people connect with you? Like, you give them your social media sites that you want them to follow, your website, your phone number, and if you want your brokerage as well.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Jennifer Salome. I'm partnered with Dawn Tillett. We work with Exit King Realty, which is an amazing brokerage. If you haven't heard, we would be happy to help any agents in their business if you would like to join us. And my phone number is 502. I still have the Louisville zip code or area code. 502-767-2741. Website is Salome Sells Sarasota. I mean, I really sell Sanibel even too, so I'll sell anywhere really. And then I'm on Facebook, Jennifer Salome, and then Instagram, Salome Sells Sarasota. TikTok, I'm on there too, but I hate it. Dawn likes TikTok way more than it's so funny because the older demographic likes Facebook. Dawn likes Snapchat and TikTok, and that's what I'm supposed to like, and I hate them.
That's crazy.
So I like the old people apps, and she likes the young people apps. It's kind of funny.
I could never get the Snapchat. I tried to figure it out for a small window. I'm like, I can't.
I have like 19 followers on there. I'm just like, whatever.
And I engage in everything new. When something starts up, I'm the first to like put my name in because I want to get my name. I don't want like Chris Galli 123 or something crazy. So I'm like, I better just sign up for it. And I mess around. I'm like, I don't see how this is going to help my business. I just don't get it. But some people
you don't
find
have to stretch yourself too thin. Like, find what works for you and what you like, and stick with it.
So,
Absolutely.
all right, guys. I want to say, Jennifer, this has been awesome. I mean, I think we need more time. I mean, we even went over an hour, guys. So you're got a little bit extra. I'm really excited about that. I'm going to bring both Dawn and Jennifer back. So if you watch the other thing, I'm going to be able to do this all over again and have it as both the duo together. I think it was nice to have you each on individually, so we could get to know you all. And if you guys are looking for a mortgage or some mortgage questions, please give me a call. I don't even want to say this number anymore, but 27 years doing this, and I'm top 1% in the country year after year. I give that to my team. I have the best team, which means we know how to get the loans closed, but we're very proficient in anything conventional, government. And then also, I'm big with debt service coverage loans, non-QM, non-qualified mortgage programs like bank statement loans if you're self-employed. So please give us a call. Follow me find me on Facebook, Chris Galli. Follow my YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great time, and can't wait for the next one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You can hit that end record if you could for me.
And now I see, we didn't.